The iron shackles around Ava's wrists have rubbed her skin raw, but she's long past caring about such small pains. Standing on the wooden platform in the center of the marketplace, she keeps her eyes fixed on the ground, watching shadows shift as potential buyers circle like vultures. "Next lot!" the auctioneer bellows, his voice cutting through the morning air like a blade. Female, 22 years, house-trained, literate. He grabs her chin roughly, forcing her head up. Decent teeth, all limbs intact, bit scrawny, but she'll fill out with proper feeding. Ava's cheeks burn with humiliation, but she doesn't resist. Fighting only makes things worse. She learned that lesson months ago when her pack fell to raiders. The strong were killed, the weak were sold. She falls somewhere in between, which means she gets to endure this. Starting bid is 50 silver, the auctioneer announces. Silence stretches across the marketplace like a held breath. 50 silver might as well be 50 gold. She can see it in the dismissive glances, the way buyers look through her rather than at her. Too thin, too plain, too broken by years of hunger and hardship. 30 silver? The auctioneer tries, his voice losing some of its confidence. A few men step closer, examining her like livestock. Their eyes are cold, calculating. She knows what they're thinking. Kitchen slave, field hand, something disposable. Her heart hammers against her ribs, but she forces herself to breathe steadily. She's trained as a healer, the auctioneer adds desperately, grasping at straws. Knows herbs, can set bones, birthing work. The scattered laughter that follows makes her stomach clench. "Who needs a healer when you've got claws and fast healing?" someone calls out. "Waste of silver, that is." 20 silver, comes a gravelly voice from the crowd. Ava's blood runs cold. The man who steps forward is broad and scarred, with yellowed teeth and hands that look like they've broken more bones than healed them. His eyes strip her bare, and she sees her future written in his cruel smile. Back-breaking labor, beatings for the smallest mistakes, a life measured in bruises and fear. 20 silver from Gareth, the auctioneer says, relief clear in his voice. "Do I hear 25? The silence is deafening. Gareth grins, already counting his coins. 15, he says, haggling like she's a sack of grain. "Look at her, she's half dead already. Lucky if she lasts the winter." The auctioneer's face falls. "Sir, surely—" 15 or I walk, Gareth snarls. Ava closes her eyes, trying to summon what little strength she has left. Maybe if she works hard, keeps quiet, doesn't give him reason to hurt her. 15 silver to... the auctioneer protests. No one else wants her. Gareth interrupts, and you know it. The replies dies in the auctioneer's throat as ripple of tension sweeps through the marketplace. Ava's wolf stirs uneasily, scenting something in the air, power, raw and overwhelming, mixed with fear and awe from the crowd. Her skin prickles with awareness. Every instinct screams at her to lower her eyes, to make herself small, to submit to whatever force has just entered their midst. The very air seems to thicken, charged with an authority so absolute it makes her bones ache. Conversations halt mid-sentence, laughter cuts off abruptly, even the crying children fall silent. "My king," someone whispers, the words barely audible. "The Alpha King," another voice breathes. No, it can't be. Against every rule of survival she's learned, Ava glances up. The crowd is parting like water, people dropping to their knees as a figure moves through them with predatory grace. The auctioneer has gone white as parchment, his hands trembling as he grips his podium. And then she sees him. 100 gold. The voice cuts through the marketplace like a blade through silk, cold and final. Ava's eyes snap fully open now, her gaze locked on the man who commands such absolute deference. Her wolf whimpers, pressing low in submission even as her human mind reels with disbelief. He stands apart from the others, tall and commanding, dark hair falling across a face carved from stone, all sharp angles and harder edges. His clothes are fine but practical. A man who can afford the best but doesn't need to flaunt it. The Alpha King. Ava's knees nearly buckle. She's never seen him before, but she knows him instantly. Everyone knows him. The conqueror of the Northern Territories, the wolf who built an empire on the bones of his enemies. What could he possibly want with her? 100 gold? The auctioneer stammers. My lord, are you certain? You doubt your king's word? The Alpha King's voice is cold as winter wind, carrying the unmistakable weight of absolute authority. Gareth's face has gone pale. My lord, I had first claim... You had nothing. Golden eyes flick to the trembling man with casual disdain. Leave, now. Gareth practically runs from the marketplace, his earlier bravado evaporating like morning mist. The Alpha King steps onto the platform, and suddenly the space feels impossibly small. This close, Ava can see the power that rolls off him in waves, not just physical strength, but something deeper, more primal. He studies her with those unsettling golden eyes, his expression unreadable. You're a healer? The question catches her off guard. Of all the things he could ask, of all the reasons he might have bought her. Yes, my lord, she whispers, hardly daring to believe it. I was trained by the Moonbloom Pack's elders. I know herbs, bone setting, midwifery. Hope flutters in her chest like a caged bird. Maybe this is why he saved her. Maybe he values her skills, sees her as more than just another body to be used and discarded. Good, he says simply, then turns away. Rowan. A massive warrior steps forward, his scarred face professionally blank. Alpha King. Take her to the fortress. See that she's fed and cleaned. He doesn't look back at Ava as he strides away, already dismissing her from his thoughts. Wait! Ava calls out, taking a step forward. My lord, I can show you... Rowan's hand clamps down on her shoulder, stopping her cold. Rule 1, he says quietly, his voice carrying the authority of someone who's used to being obeyed. You don't speak to the Alpha King unless he addresses you directly. Rule 2, you never, ever look him in the eyes. You're property now, girl. Valuable property, but property all the same. The words hit her like a physical blow, but she nods numbly. At least she's not going to be beaten to death in Gareth's fields. At least someone values her healing enough to pay for it. At least she's alive. As Rowan leads her away from the marketplace, Ava catches one last glimpse of the Alpha King's retreating form. He saved her, maybe not out of kindness, but he saved her nonetheless. And if he wants a healer, she'll be the best healer he's ever seen. She has to be. It's the only chance she has. Chapter 1. The journey to the Alpha King's territory stretches endlessly ahead. Ava's bare feet, still tender from months of captivity, bleed against the rocky mountain path. Around her, the king's warriors move with fluid grace, their massive forms shifting between human and wolf as the terrain demands. She can't remember the last time she shifted. Months of starvation have left her wolf weak and dormant, buried so deep she can barely sense her anymore. Useless Omega, one of the warriors mutters, earning harsh laughter from his companions. King wasted his gold on that one. Should have left her for the vultures, another adds. The words sting more than her bleeding feet. She's heard worse in the slave camps, but somehow these men's casual dismissal cuts deeper. They serve the king. If they think she's worthless, what does that say about his judgment in buying her? Maybe she's not meant for shifting, Rowan says gruffly, and for a moment hope flickers in her chest. Healers got other uses. Like what? The warrior's laugh is ugly. Healing's for weaklings who can't take pain. Real wolves heal themselves. Or they die, another adds with grim satisfaction. That's how you keep the pack strong. Ava's stomach clenches. If this is how the king's own men think about healing, what chance does she have? On the third day, her body finally betrays her completely. The world tilts sideways, and suddenly she's face down in the dirt, her vision swimming. The warrior's mocking laughter rings in her ears as she tries and fails to push herself up. Should have known she wouldn't last, someone sneers. Weak little Omega can't even walk properly. Leave her, another voice suggests. We've wasted enough time. Through her haze of exhaustion, Ava hears the heavy tread of boots approaching. She braces herself for a kick, for rough hands dragging her upright, for the casual cruelty she's learned to expect. Instead, gentle arms lift her from the ground. The scent hits her first, pine and steel and something indefinably wild that makes her wolf stir for the first time in months. Then she realizes who's carrying her, and shock drives the breath from her lungs. The Alpha King holds her like she weighs nothing, his massive frame steady and sure as he navigates the treacherous mountain path. She can feel the controlled power in his arms, the careful way he adjusts his grip to keep her comfortable. He doesn't speak, doesn't acknowledge her whispered apologies, but he carries her up the mountain nonetheless, his warriors falling into respectful silence behind them. Through half-closed eyes, she sees their destination emerge from the mist, a fortress carved into the mountainside itself, all black stone and sharp angles. It looks less like a home and more like a weapon thrust into the sky, its towers reaching toward the clouds like claws. This is it, she thinks, as they pass through the towering gates. The courtyard beyond confirms her fears. Warriors drill in perfect formation, their snarls and clashing weapons echoing off stone walls. Even the children mirror their savagery, tiny faces set in fierce scowls as they practice combat forms with wooden swords. No one smiles, no one laughs. The very air seems heavy with barely restrained violence. Ava thinks this might be the most joyless place she's ever seen. The king deposits her gently in the main courtyard, gesturing to a stern-faced woman who hurries forward. But before the woman can take her away, a voice cuts through the air like a blade. "Welcome back, nephew." The words are honey smooth but leave ice in their wake. A tall warrior approaches, so similar to the king they could be brothers, but older, with cruelty etched into every line of his face. His pale eyes assess Ava with the same consideration one might give a piece of rotting meat. "Is this the healer you purchased?" he asks, his tone making it clear what he thinks of the investment. "It is, Uncle Craven," the king replies, his voice holding a note of deference that surprises Ava. Craven's lip curls in distaste. "And you carried her? Here? Where the entire pack could see?" The stern-faced woman, clearly a servant, tugs urgently at Ava's arm, trying to hurry her away from the tension crackling between the two men. But Ava can't help but hear Craven's next words, spoken low but carrying clearly in the stone courtyard. "The pack watches everything you do, nephew. Every gesture. Every moment of weakness. We cannot afford softness, not when we've worked so hard to build our reputation." "She couldn't walk," the king begins. "She was weak," Craven cuts him off, "and now they've all seen you coddle weakness. What if our enemies heard of this?" The servant's grip tightens on Ava's arm, practically dragging her toward the fortress entrance. "That was Craven," she whispers urgently, "the pack's beta and the king's uncle. If you value your life, girl, you'll pray he forgets you exist." As they disappear into the shadows of the fortress, Ava can still hear the two men arguing in low, tense voices. Chapter 2. 3 weeks pass in the fortress, and Ava learns to navigate its harsh rhythms. Dawn brings the clash of weapons in the courtyards, the snarls of warriors testing their strength against one another. Midday sees the servants scurrying through stone corridors, keeping the massive structure running with silent efficiency. Evening brings exhausted fighters limping back to their quarters, nursing wounds that could heal so much faster with proper care. But no one asks for that care. Ava scrubs floors and tends fires, grateful for the steady meals and warm bed that come with her servitude. It's more than she dared hope for at the auction block. The work is hard but honest, and no one raises a hand to her, a luxury she'd almost forgotten existed. Still, watching the daily suffering around her makes her heart ache. She sees a young warrior struggling to use his sword arm after a training injury, his shoulder clearly dislocated. When she approaches with gentle hands and healing energy already warming her palms, he recoils like she's offered him poison. "Get away from me," he snarls, backing against the wall. "I don't need your Omega weakness." "But I could help," Ava starts. "Help?" The warrior spits the word like a curse. "Real wolves heal themselves or die trying. That's what makes us strong." The incident draws a crowd. Other warriors gather to watch, their faces twisted with disgust as if she's committed some unthinkable blasphemy. A senior fighter pushes through the group, his scarred face thunderous. "What's this Omega doing?" he demands. "Trying to corrupt Dane with her healing nonsense," someone calls out. "Healing's for the weak," another adds. "No true warrior needs it." The senior fighter's eyes narrow on Ava. "You were bought as a servant, not a healer. Remember your place, Omega." Shame burns her cheeks as she retreats, but confusion burns hotter. If the king bought her as a servant, why ask about her healing at all? Why pay 100 gold for someone to scrub floors? The pattern repeats itself over the following days. A kitchen maid burns her hand on a hot pot. Ava offers to heal it and gets shouted at for encouraging clumsiness. A guard develops a festering cut that could turn dangerous. Her suggestion of treatment earns her a lecture about how real wolves don't coddle minor wounds. Each rejection chips away at her hope a little more. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe the king asked about her healing just to confirm what he was buying, not because he intended to use those skills. But then why carry her up the mountain? Why show such unexpected gentleness to a mere servant? The question gnaws at her until she can't stand it anymore. Her chance comes one evening as she's cleaning the Great Hall. The king strides through with several advisors, discussing patrol routes and supply lines. His voice carries the same cold authority she remembers from the auction, but there's something else there too. A weariness that makes her heart clench unexpectedly. This is her moment. She has to know. "My lord?" she calls softly, stepping forward with her cleaning rag clutched in her hands. The conversation stops dead. The advisors turn to stare at her with expressions ranging from shock to outrage. The king's golden eyes flick to her briefly before looking away, as if she's beneath notice. "My lord, I wanted to ask about—" "How dare you!" One of the advisors steps forward, his face flushed with indignation. "A servant does not address the Alpha King directly." "But I'm a healer," Ava protests, desperation making her voice rise. "He bought me as a healer, surely he wants me to—" "You are nothing," the advisor snarls. "You speak when spoken to, not before." Rowan appears from nowhere, his hand clamping down on her shoulder with bruising force. "My apologies, Alpha King. The Omega forgets her place." "See that it doesn't happen again," the king says coldly, and continues walking as if she never existed. Ava's heart sinks as Rowan drags her away, his lecture about proper behavior washing over her like noise. Frustration builds in her chest until she can barely breathe. If she's not meant to heal, why won't anyone simply tell her? Why this cruel pretense that her skills matter when clearly they don't? But the next morning, everything changes. She's sweeping the training courtyard when she hears the sickening crack of bone breaking wrong. A boy, no more than 12, crashes to the ground during an aerial combat drill, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. The child tries to stand and collapses with a cry that tears at her heart. Around the courtyard, warriors watch with cold indifference. This is their way. Pain builds character. Suffering creates strength. Craven strides over, his pale eyes bright with cruel satisfaction. "Pathetic," he sneers, grabbing the boy's broken arm and twisting until another bone cracks. "This is what weakness looks like. This is what we destroy." The boy's scream echoes off the stone walls, and something in Ava snaps. She doesn't think. She doesn't consider consequences or proper behavior or the 100 rules that govern her existence here. She just runs. Stop! The word tears from her throat as she drops to her knees beside the child. Her hands are already glowing with healing energy, warmth flowing from her palms into his broken body. The boy's sobs quiet as bones knit and torn muscle weaves back together. His leg straightens, the unnatural angle correcting itself with gentle precision. When she finishes, he stares at her with confused wonder, as if kindness is a language he's forgotten how to speak. What is this? Craven's voice cuts through the silence like a blade. Ava looks up to find him looming over her, his face twisted with rage. Behind him, she can see the king approaching with measured steps, his expression unreadable. Your Omega pet defies our ways, Craven spits, his words dripping venom. She healed the weakness we were trying to burn out. She must be punished. The king stops beside them, his golden eyes studying the scene. The boy sits up easily, his leg fully healed, while Ava kneels beside him with her hands still glowing faintly with residual energy. Any other Omega would cower now, would beg forgiveness, and promise never to transgress again. But Ava lifts her chin and meets the king's gaze directly, silently daring him to punish her for an act of mercy. His nostrils flare slightly as he reads the defiance in her face. For a heartbeat, the air between them crackles with tension. Then, the boy is more useful healed, he says simply. He can return to training sooner. Craven's fist slams against the nearest wall. Nephew, he barks, you can't. Enough. The king's voice carries the full weight of his alpha power, making every warrior in the courtyard flinch. Do not question me again. As guards escort Ava back toward the fortress, she feels Craven's hatred burning into her back like acid. But it's the king's expression that haunts her, that brief moment when his mask slipped, showing something that might have been gratitude. Chapter 3. The days following the incident in the courtyard feel different. Ava moves through her duties with renewed purpose, waiting for someone to seek her out, to ask for the healing the king had publicly defended. Surely now that he'd sided with her in front of the entire pack, things would change. She could finally prove her worth, show him that his 100 gold hadn't been wasted on a mere servant. She finds herself thinking of him more than she should. The way his golden eyes had assessed the healed boy, the careful neutrality of his expression that somehow felt like approval. He'd protected her choice when he could have easily sided with his uncle. That had to mean something. But no one comes. Warriors still nurse their wounds in stubborn silence. Servants still treat injuries as shameful weaknesses to be hidden. The culture of suffering runs too deep to change overnight, even with royal endorsement. Still, Ava allows herself to hope. Maybe it just takes time. The knock at her door comes after the evening meal, sharp and authoritative. A guard she doesn't recognize stands in the hallway, his expression professionally blank. You're to come with me, he says simply. Where? Ava asks, setting down her mending. The Alpha King wants a word. Her heart stops, then starts again, hammering against her ribs so hard she's sure he can hear it. The king wants to see her? Privately? Her mind races through possibilities. Maybe he has work for her. Maybe he wants to discuss how she can best serve the pack's healing needs. Or maybe she's in trouble. The guard leads her through corridors she's never seen before, deeper into the fortress where only the highest-ranking wolves are allowed. Her bare feet whisper against stone floors as they climb winding stairs toward what must be the royal chambers. When the guard stops before massive oak doors and knocks, Ava's palms are slick with nervous sweat. Enter, comes the familiar voice from within. The doors swing open to reveal a chamber that takes her breath away. Rich tapestries line the walls, and a fire crackles in a hearth large enough to roast a deer. The space is warm and comfortable in a way the rest of the fortress isn't. A private sanctuary away from the harsh realities of pack life. And there, silhouetted against the firelight, stands the Alpha King. He's shed his formal attire for simple dark clothing that somehow makes him look more dangerous, not less. The flames cast dancing shadows across his sharp features, highlighting the strong line of his jaw and the predatory grace of his movements as he turns to face her. His golden eyes meet hers for a moment before she remembers herself and drops her gaze to the floor. Her heart pounds so loudly in the sudden silence that she's certain he can hear it. "You may leave us," he tells the guard, who bows and retreats, closing the doors with a soft click. Now they're alone. Ava keeps her eyes fixed on her bare feet, hyper-aware of every breath, every small sound. The silence stretches until she can't stand it anymore. "You wanted to see me, my lord?" "I did." His voice is softer than she's ever heard it, but still carrying that unmistakable authority. "About what happened in the courtyard." Her stomach clenches. "My lord, You healed him well." He interrupts, and she can hear him moving closer. "The boy will fight again tomorrow." Relief floods through her, quickly followed by confusion. If he's not angry, then why does he sound so distant? "Thank you, my lord. I only wanted to help. But this is not our way." His tone hardens, becoming the cold, commanding voice she remembers from the auction. "Here, we earn our strength through pain. Fighting through injury proves a warrior's worth. You dishonored him by taking away that chance." The words hit her like a physical blow. "My lord, I don't understand. You defended my actions." "I defended the practical outcome." He's close enough now that she can feel the heat radiating from his body, catch his scent of pine and steel and something wild that makes her Omega Wolf whimper. "A healed warrior returns to duty faster, but that doesn't mean I approve of the method." Ava's hands clench into fists at her sides. Every instinct screams at her to submit, to accept his words without question. He's the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the territory. His word is law. But something in his voice doesn't match his words. Something that sounds almost like reluctance. "I understand it's not your way, my lord," she says carefully, finally daring to look up at him. "But surely, in some cases, there's no need for unnecessary suffering. It can't be efficient to lose warriors to injuries that could be easily healed." His jaw tightens, and for a moment something raw flickers across his features. Pain, maybe, or old anger. When he speaks again, his voice is quiet but heavy with memory. "When I was young, my pack was slaughtered." The words fall into the silence like stones into still water. "We were too open, too trusting. We believed in mercy, in helping others, in showing weakness as strength." His golden eyes burn into hers. "It made us soft, unprepared. When the attack came, we fell like wheat before the scythe." Ava's breath catches. She can see it now. A young boy watching his world burn, learning that kindness equals death. "My uncle saved me," he continues, his voice growing harder. "He and a handful of survivors. We swore we would never make the same mistake. We would be strong, always. We would show no weakness that our enemies could exploit." He steps closer, his presence overwhelming. Is this understood? The weight of his alpha power presses down on her, demanding submission, demanding agreement. But underneath the command, she hears the echo of that frightened boy who lost everything. "Yes, my lord," she whispers, her heart breaking for him even as it breaks for herself. He studies her face for a long moment, and she sees something shift in his expression. A flicker of regret, perhaps, or reluctance. "We will use your abilities only in cases of true emergency," he says finally, the words seeming to cost him something. When a warrior's life hangs in the balance, not for minor injuries that can heal naturally. Ava's eyes snap to his, hope flaring bright in her chest despite everything. It's not what she dreamed of, but it's something. It's a chance to help, even if only rarely. "Thank you, my lord," she breathes, dropping into a deep bow. "I understand." She turns toward the door, her mind already racing with possibilities. Emergencies only. She can work with that. She can... Ava. The sound of her name in his voice stops her cold. She turns back, suddenly flustered, suddenly too aware of the intimacy of this moment. Alone in his chambers, firelight dancing between them, the careful walls he's built showing hairline cracks. "Yes, my lord?" "You should avoid my uncle." The warning is quiet but serious. "Craven doesn't share my practical view of your abilities. It would be wise to stay out of his way." "Oh," she says, and for some reason the thought disappoints her more than it should. "Yes, my lord, I understand." She curtsies again and flees before she can say something foolish, her cheeks burning with embarrassment she can't quite name. In the days that follow, Ava tries to honor his wishes. When she sees injuries that could be easily healed, she forces herself to look away. When warriors limp past her with obvious pain, she keeps her glowing hands firmly clasped behind her back. But then comes the morning when a young she-wolf crashes during an aerial combat drill, her leg twisted wrong with bone jutting through skin. Blood pools beneath her as she writhes in agony, and Ava knows with sick certainty that without immediate intervention, the girl will bleed out. This is an emergency. This is exactly what he meant. She doesn't hesitate. Her hands are already glowing as she drops beside the injured wolf, pouring healing energy into the catastrophic wound. Bone straightens, muscle knits, skin seals without a scar. The girl's agonized screams fade to confused whimpers, then to silence as she stares at her perfectly healed leg in wonder. "How dare you?" Craven's voice cracks like a whip across the training ground. Ava looks up to find him stalking toward her, his pale eyes bright with rage. "This Omega defies our ways again," he snarls to the gathered crowd. "She corrupts our warriors with her weakness." But even as he rages, Ava catches sight of the Alpha King watching from the balcony above. Their eyes meet for just a moment, and she sees something there that makes her breath catch. Approval, satisfaction, and underneath it all, a warmth that has nothing to do with practical efficiency and everything to do with pride. He's happy. Despite everything he said about their ways, despite his uncle's fury, despite the danger to his reputation, he's proud of what she's done. The realization hits her like lightning, and suddenly she understands. The conflict isn't just between her healing and their culture. It's between what the Alpha King was taught to believe and what he actually feels. And maybe she's not the only one beginning to change. Chapter 4. A week later, Ava wakes to the thunder of boots on stone and joins the servants lining the battlements to watch the Alpha King's forces assemble below. "What is happening?" she asks another maid, hurrying outside. The latter sends her a disbelieving look, surprised by Ava's ignorance. "Haven't you heard? The king leaves for battle today." Hundreds of warriors fill the courtyard, some in human form with gleaming armor, others already shifted into their wolf forms, massive beasts with eyes that burn like coals. At their head sits the king on his black destrier, his dark armor fitted perfectly to his powerful frame. His voice carries clearly as he addresses his troops, speaking of honor and strength. The warriors respond with thunderous roars and howls of approval. Ava watches until the last warrior vanishes from sight, her heart heavy with an emotion she can't quite name. In the days that follow, with the king's intimidating presence absent, something unexpected begins to happen. The first sign comes when a kitchen maid approaches Ava hesitantly, cradling a burned hand against her chest. "Please," the girl whispers, glancing around nervously. "It hurts so much, and the cook says if I can't work, I'll be turned out." Ava heals the burn without hesitation, watching relief flood the girl's face. Word spreads quietly through the servants' quarters. The Omega can help, and she will. Soon, others begin to seek her out. A stable boy with a kicked shin, a seamstress with fingers pricked raw from rushed needlework, a guard with an infected cut. Each healing is small, hardly the emergencies the king specified, but how can she turn away when they ask so desperately? More importantly, how can she turn away when she sees the change her help brings? The servants begin to smile more often. Laughter occasionally drifts through the corridors. Children who once huddled in corners now play games in the courtyards, their giggles echoing off stone walls that have heard precious little joy. The transformation spreads slowly but surely. Warriors who witness her healing begin to soften their harsh discipline. A trainer who once kicked fallen recruits now helps them to their feet. Even the fortress itself seems to breathe easier. Where once there was only the sound of clashing weapons and shouted orders, now there's music drifting from the great hall, quiet conversations in the gardens. Ava moves through it all with growing confidence, her healing light touching every corner of the king's domain. She's useful here, needed. For the first time since the auction block, she feels truly alive. But always, in the back of her mind, she wonders what he'll think when he returns. Will he see the joy she's helped create, or only the weakness his uncle warned him about? The answer comes 3 weeks later, in the middle of the night. Ava jolts awake to the sound of horns blowing, not the triumphant call of victory, but the urgent, desperate wail of emergency. She throws on her cloak and races outside, her heart pounding as she joins the crowd gathering in the courtyard. Through the gates come 3 riders, their wolves lathered with sweat and foam. The king leads them, his armor dented and bloodied, his golden eyes wild with desperation. "Where is she?" the king roars, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "Where is the healer?" "Here," Ava calls, pushing through the crowd. "I'm here, my lord." Relief floods his features when he sees her. This close, she can see the exhaustion etched into his face, the way his hands shake with barely controlled desperation. "My uncle," he says, his voice rough with emotion. "He's dying. Silver weapons, poisoned blades. His wolf can't heal this alone, and he won't survive the journey back to the fortress." "How far?" Ava asks, already knowing the answer will be too far for any normal mount. 2 hours, the king replies. "You can ride with me, I'll shift and carry you." She nods, then hesitates. "My lord, I can shift too. I'm fast, I can keep up." Something flickers across his features. Surprise, maybe, or approval. His shift is magnificent and terrible to witness. Bones crack and reshape, muscle flows like water, and where the man stood moments before, a massive black wolf now crouches. Ava's own shift comes harder, but desperation lends her strength, and soon a smaller silver wolf stands beside the king's black form. The run is brutal. The king sets a punishing pace, his powerful legs eating up the ground with effortless grace. Ava pushes herself harder than she ever has before, her lungs burning, her legs screaming, but she keeps up. She has to. A man's life depends on it. They find Craven exactly where the king said they would, in a makeshift camp beside a stream, his remaining warriors standing guard with expressions of grim resignation. The beta lies motionless on a bed of pine boughs, his breathing so shallow it's barely visible. Ava shifts back to human form, not caring about her nakedness in the urgency of the moment. The king follows suit, immediately draping his long campaign cloak around her shoulders before leading her to his uncle's side. "I don't know if I can save him," she whispers, her hands already beginning to glow with healing energy. The wounds are worse than anything she's ever seen. "Try," the king says simply, and settles beside her for what she knows will be a long vigil. The healing takes hours. Ava pours everything she has into the broken body before her, fighting the silver poison drop by drop, coaxing torn flesh back together thread by thread. The king stays beside her through it all, his presence a steady anchor in the storm of her concentration. When she finally collapses from exhaustion, Craven's breathing has steadied, his skin returning to a healthy color. The silver poison is gone, the wounds closed, life flowing strong through his veins once more. "You did it," the king whispers, his voice rough with emotion. His hand finds hers, squeezing gently. "You saved him." For a moment, they simply sit there in the pre-dawn darkness, her small hand engulfed in his large one, both of them trembling with relief and exhaustion. Then Craven's eyes flutter open and the moment shatters. The beta takes in the scene with growing horror, his healed body, Ava's glowing hands, the king's protective proximity. His face contorts with rage as understanding dawns. "What have you done?" he snarls, struggling to sit up. "What have you done to me?" "She saved your life," the king replies, his voice carefully controlled. "You were dying, uncle." "You should have let me die." Craven's voice cracks with fury. "My death would have motivated our troops, fueled their rage for the final assault. Instead, you've made us all weak with this Omega's tainted healing." The king's face goes very still. "You're saying I should have let you die, for the sake of our soldiers' anger?" he asks. "Yes," Craven struggles to his feet. "That's what strength looks like, that's what leadership means." The king is quiet for a long moment, his golden eyes studying his uncle's face. "I see," he says finally. "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I've grown too soft." He glances at Ava, and she sees something like apology in his eyes. "Return to the fortress, healer. We'll speak of this later when you've recovered." "My lord," Ava begins, but he shakes his head. "Go," he says gently. "I need to speak with my uncle privately." As she gathers her cloak and prepares to shift for the long run home, she catches sight of Craven watching her. His pale eyes burn with such hatred that she takes an involuntary step backward. This isn't over. In his twisted worldview, her healing isn't a gift. It's a corruption that threatens everything he holds dear. Chapter 5. The fortress feels different after the king's return. The lightness that had grown in his absence slowly dims, replaced by the familiar weight of watchful eyes and whispered warnings. Craven stalks the corridors like a restless predator, his pale gaze seeking out any sign of weakness to crush. Still, people come to Ava. They approach more carefully now, glancing over their shoulders before asking for help, but they come nonetheless. A servant with a twisted ankle, a guard with a festering wound, a kitchen maid whose hands shake too badly to work without healing. She helps them all, but the joy has gone out of it. Where once there was laughter and open gratitude, now there's only furtive relief and nervous glances. It's been 3 weeks since the night she saved Craven's life, and the king hasn't spoken to her once. She catches glimpses of him sometimes, crossing the courtyard with his advisors, reviewing reports in the Great Hall, training with his warriors. But his golden eyes never seek her out, never acknowledge her presence. It's as if that moment beside the stream, when he'd squeezed her hand and looked at her with such warmth, never happened at all. But she remembers. She replays that night endlessly in her mind, the desperate ride through the forest, the way he'd matched her pace without complaint, the hours he'd sat vigil beside her as she fought to save his uncle's life. The memory of his hand in hers, strong and warm and reassuring. Most of all, she remembers the moment when he'd draped his cloak around her naked shoulders, his movements careful and respectful even in the urgency of the situation. The weight of the fabric had been nothing compared to the weight of his consideration, and the memory makes her cheeks burn with feelings she can't quite name. She's crushing on him. The realization hits her like a physical blow one evening as she watches him from across the Great Hall. He's discussing strategy with his captains, his voice carrying the familiar authority she's come to know, and her heart does something complicated in her chest. This is dangerous. This is foolish. She's a servant, a slave, bought and owned like any other possession. But her traitorous heart doesn't seem to care about such practical concerns. The knock at her door comes long after the fortress has settled into sleep. Ava opens it to find Craven standing in the hallway, his pale eyes gleaming in the torchlight. "The king wants to see you," he says without preamble. Her heart leaps, then immediately falls. Something in his tone feels wrong, too cold even for Craven's usual cruelty. "Now, my lord? It's quite late." "Now," he says firmly, turning away. "Follow me." They walk through corridors she's never seen before, descending stone steps that grow damper and colder with each level. The dungeons, she realizes with growing unease. Why would the king want to meet her here? Is there a prisoner who needs healing? She asks, trying to keep her voice steady. Craven doesn't answer. They emerge into a circular chamber lined with empty cells. Several guards wait in the shadows, their faces hidden behind iron helms. But there's no prisoner, no injured person requiring her skills. And no king. "My lord," Ava says slowly, turning to face Craven, "where is the Alpha King?" His smile is sharp as a blade. "He's not coming." Fear crawls up her spine like ice water. The guards shift closer, their hands moving to their weapons. She's trapped, cornered like prey in a hunting net. "You're going to disappear tonight," Craven continues conversationally. "A tragic accident, perhaps. Or maybe you'll simply wander away. Desert your post. These things happen with slaves." "Please," she whispers, backing against the stone wall. "I've done nothing wrong. I only wanted to help." "Help?" His voice cracks like a whip. "You call this corruption help? You've made them weak, dependent, soft. You're poison, girl. You're the rot that will destroy everything we've built." She sees the madness in his eyes now, the fanatical certainty that brooks no argument. He truly believes she's a threat to everything he holds dear. "My lord, I only seek to heal, and that's exactly why you must die." He lunges forward, his hands reaching for her throat. Ava screams. The sound echoes off the stone walls, high and desperate. She tries to dodge, but there's nowhere to go. Craven's fingers close around her neck, and she feels the terrible strength in his grip. Then the chamber explodes into chaos. The king tears through the entrance like an avenging angel, his golden eyes blazing with fury. His roar shakes dust from the ceiling as he takes in the scene. Ava pinned against the wall, Craven's hands around her throat, the guards moving to surround them. "Let her go," he snarls, his voice carrying the full weight of his alpha power. Craven releases her, but his face shows no remorse. "She's poison, nephew. She'll destroy us all if we let her live." "I told you already," the king says, his voice dangerously quiet. "She stays." "And I told you that's impossible." Craven's composure finally cracks. "Look what she's done to you. Look how weak you've become. Our enemies will smell it on you like blood in the water." "Using our resources wisely isn't weakness. It's madness," Craven spits. "She's made you forget who you are, what you are. You're the Alpha King, not some lovesick fool moon-eyed over an Omega." The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Ava's cheeks burn with shame, and something else, hope, maybe, or terror at having her feelings so brutally exposed. "You've lost sight of reason," the king says quietly. "This has gone too far." "Too far?" Craven laughs bitterly. "I raised you from nothing. I saved you when your parents' weakness would have gotten you killed. I made you strong, made you king, and this is how you repay me?" His hand moves to his belt, drawing a wicked-looking dagger. Its blade gleams with the same oily sheen Ava remembers from his earlier injury. Poison. "If you won't be the king I made you to be," Craven says sadly, "then perhaps it's time for new leadership." He strikes without warning, the blade aimed straight at the king's heart. But the king is faster, catching his uncle's wrist and twisting until the dagger clatters to the floor. What follows is terrible to witness. Uncle and nephew, teacher and student, locked in deadly combat. They're evenly matched in skill, but the king has youth and strength on his side. He should win easily. But then the guards join the fight. "For the true Alpha!" one shouts, his sword singing as it cuts through the air. "For strength!" another cries, his blade seeking the king's spine. They're outnumbered 5-1, but the king fights like a man possessed. His claws tear through armor, his strength sending grown warriors flying, but there are too many, and they keep coming. Ava watches in horror as a sword finds its mark, then another. The king staggers but doesn't fall, his golden eyes still blazing with determination. He's magnificent in his fury, terrible and beautiful and utterly doomed. Then she sees Craven rising behind him, the poisoned dagger gleaming in his hand. "Look out!" she screams, but it's too late. The blade slides between the king's ribs with surgical precision, finding the gap in his armor as if guided by fate. His eyes go wide with shock and pain, but instead of falling, something terrible awakens in his golden gaze. "I'm sorry," Craven whispers, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry it had to end this way, but I won't let you destroy everything we built." The king looks up at him, blood frothing at his lips. For a moment, nephew and uncle stare at each other, the man who raised him and the man who would kill him. Then the king's claws extend with a sound like steel on stone. "So am I," he whispers. His hand punches through Craven's chest in one fluid motion, claws piercing heart and lung with deadly precision. Craven's eyes go wide with shock, then dim as life leaves them. He topples backward, his body hitting the stone floor with a final, hollow thud. The king sways, the effort of that last strike costing him dearly. His eyes roll back, and he collapses forward into Ava's waiting arms. The poison works quickly. Already his skin is taking on the gray pallor she remembers from Craven's injury, his breathing becoming shallow and irregular. She can feel his life slipping away like sand through her fingers. "No," she whispers, her hands already beginning to glow. "No, I won't let you die, not like this." But even as she pours her power into him, she knows it may not be enough. Chapter 6. They carry the king to his chambers immediately, a procession of terrified servants and loyal guards moving with urgency through the fortress corridors. Ava never lets go of his hand, her healing energy flowing into him even as they climb the winding stairs. By the time they reach his private chambers, word has spread through the fortress like wildfire. Craven is dead. The king is dying. Everything they've known is crumbling. But Ava only has eyes for the man laid carefully on the massive bed before her. All that matters is the shallow rise and fall of his chest, the gray pallor spreading across his skin. She kneels beside his bed, her hands pressed against his chest, pouring every ounce of her healing energy into his failing body. The silver poison fights her at every turn, resisting her power like acid burning through silk. Hours pass. Servants come and go in whispered silence, bringing food she doesn't touch and water she barely sips. Rowan stands guard at the door, his scarred face grim with worry. But Ava never moves, never stops fighting for his life. She loves him. Not the Alpha King with his cold authority and ruthless reputation, but the man underneath. The one who carried her up a mountain when she was too weak to walk, who sat vigil beside her as she saved his uncle's life. She loves his strength and his gentleness. She loves the way he looks at her like she matters, like she's precious, rather than property. And she's going to lose him. "Please," she whispers, tears streaming down her face as she fights the poison's relentless advance. "Please don't leave me. I need you. We all need you." His breathing hitches, grows even shallower. "Ava." His lips move without sound, forming her name over and over like a prayer. His eyelids flutter but don't open, lost somewhere between life and death. "I'm here," she whispers, leaning closer. "I'm here, I won't leave you." "Ava." He breathes again, and this time his hand twitches toward hers. She catches it, squeezes gently, and pours everything she has left into him. Her own life force mingles with the healing light, a desperate gamble that might save him or kill them both. The poison finally breaks. Like a dam bursting, her healing energy floods through him, washing away the silver corruption. His skin clears, his breathing deepens, and color returns to his ashen face. Ava collapses beside him, utterly spent. But he's alive, Against all odds, he's alive. Dawn is breaking through the tall windows when his eyes finally open. For a moment, he stares at the ceiling in confusion. Then his gaze finds hers. "Ava," he breathes, and this time his voice is strong and clear. "I'm sorry," she says immediately. "This is all my fault. If I had just listened, if I had stayed in my place—" "Stop." His hand finds hers. "Don't you dare blame yourself for his choices." "But my lord," she protests, "I brought discord to your pack, division between you and your family." "You brought healing," he says, struggling to sit up. Ava shakes her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Your uncle is dead because of me. He's dead because he chose hatred over hope." The king's thumb brushes across her knuckles. "I've been watching, you know. These past weeks, I've seen what you've done for my people. The servants smile now, the children laugh." He pauses, his golden eyes searching her face. "You were right about needless suffering. It isn't strength, it's just cruelty disguised as tradition. My uncle and I, we clung to our pain because it felt like the only thing keeping us safe. But all it really did was make us afraid." "You're not afraid," Ava whispers. "I was terrified," he admits. "Terrified of being weak, of making the same mistakes that got my parents killed. But suffering for its own sake isn't strength. It's just suffering. Real strength is choosing to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of break." His free hand comes up to cup her cheek. "My lord," she whispers, flustered. "Cain," he corrects gently. "My name is Cain." The intimacy of it makes her breath catch. "Thank you," he whispers, "for saving me, for saving all of us." He pulls her closer, his arms wrapping around her with infinite care. "Ava," he says softly, "my fierce little healer, my heart." When his lips touch hers, the kiss is soft, reverent, as if he's afraid she might shatter beneath his touch. But when she melts into him, her hands sliding up to tangle in his dark hair, he deepens it with a quiet desperation that speaks of nearly losing everything that matters. Epilogue. Spring comes to the fortress, and with it, transformation. Where once there were only training grounds, gardens now bloom with healing herbs. The clash of weapons still rings through the courtyards, but now it's accompanied by laughter and encouragement. Warriors who once trained to dominate now learn to protect, understanding at last that true strength lies in defending others. Cain moves through his pack like a changed wolf. His power hasn't diminished. If anything, it's grown stronger. But now it's tempered with wisdom. Where once he ruled through fear, he leads through respect. Young wolves no longer cower in his presence. Instead, they seek his guidance, knowing they'll find both strength and mercy in his counsel. The fortress itself seems to breathe easier. Music drifts from the great hall where once there was only silence. Pups play in corridors that once echoed with harsh commands. Even the stone walls appear warmer, as if the love that transformed the pack has seeped into the very foundation of their home. On the night of the full moon, when the pack gathers in the courtyard, Cain takes Ava's hand before them all. The mighty alpha who once saw kindness as weakness now looks at her with undisguised devotion. "You were brought here as a servant," he says, his deep voice carrying to every ear. "But you've freed us all. You've taught us that true strength isn't about how many we can defeat, but how many we can protect. You didn't just heal our wounds, you healed our hearts." Under the silver light of the moon, he marks her as his mate, his gentle bite a promise of eternal love. Their wolves twine together, black and white, strength and mercy, two halves of a whole finally united. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. This week again, I'm giving away 1 month of free access to all my Patreon content. Exclusive stories, bonus chapters, and even a special one linked to this episode. Just leave a comment below with your favorite quote from today's story, and I'll announce the winner in my next video. Good luck!